welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN FM, where each week is an unscripted exploration into the many facets of love, oneness, and our connection to the human spirit. I'm Lisa LeRose, and I'm joined by the most incredible co-host, Michael J. Russ. It is always such a delight, Michael, and I'm so grateful to be able to join you in these conversations. Michael inspires me all the time, and today we are going to open space for a feeling I believe that almost every human carries part of in their world experience. At one point or another, we've had a quiet, nagging sense that something in your life isn't working, or even if you can't put your finger on it, something that may need to change. I've been feeling that a lot myself lately, and I think we often tell ourselves we need a grand 5-year plan or an instant revelation to fix our lives, but what happens when you're standing right in front, in the middle of the fog, and there's something that presents itself? And that's exactly what Michael did for me today. He posed a question. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael right now and let you share with the audience what you shared with me, please.
Yes, no problem. Thank you so much. Joy to be with you and our worldwide audience that is tuning in. Thank you so much. Yeah, the question I came up with, I'm a little befuddled about where it came from. However, I know I wrote it down because I thought it was so interesting and so unique. And there may be some people out there that are listening that are in this little quagmire, and today we're going to talk about how to move out of it, move beyond it. So the question is this: what do you do when you feel really unsatisfied with life, but you don't know what to change or how to change it? Interesting, yes? Very, very unique. So in thinking about this question, first, let me just ask you this. When you heard this question, Lisa, what crossed your mind? Because you just mentioned that you kind of have a similar sort of quagmire going on in your life right about now, with some changes that are happening, and you're getting rid of irrelevant things and bringing more relevant things into your life. So what's this question bring up in you?
Well, I'm so grateful you asked, because I believe, Michael, it's such a vulnerable and honest question that we each have to ask ourselves. And I think so many of us, I'm really appreciative because you gave me the words, which I think so many of us carry in silence. And for me, it's not so much a dissatisfaction, because I think oftentimes when we have that dissatisfaction, we are assuming that something is broken. And in my world, it is not broken, but I think it's simply acknowledging that sometimes life begins to whisper little hints about, well, maybe this should change. And it was so interesting because after you shared that with me, I picked up a book that just had been sitting there, and it said, "Don't wait for the storm to change your life. Create the storm that will change your life." And I had to laugh, and I thought, oh, my goodness. It's so interesting how
right along the same
universe bring. I know I couldn't, and because I was tidying some things up. But I think sometimes it isn't really about dissatisfaction, because I'm not dissatisfied. I'm looking for an invitation. For me, it's like becoming curious, to pause, to breathe, and ask. It's like, what is my soul trying to tell me? And I have kept saying that I need to simplify my life so that I can do other things. And it's not that I don't appreciate all of the gifts and all of the blessings in my life, because I absolutely do. It's just that I'm gaining clarity that I have all of these extensions to my energy, and I'm very energetic. But sometimes, like last night, it was 2:30 when I went to bed, and I was up before 8, and I go, and I go, and go. And I listen to a lot of books when I'm doing what I'm doing in my day, but it's about that simplification. So when I heard that question that you posed to me, you said, I found this really great quote. I had suggested to Michael that we speak about inner peace, and then I thought, well, this is actually really related to that, because what do you do when you have that feeling? You feel, could you repeat it again? I think you said, what do you do when you, please?
What do you do when you feel really unsatisfied with life, but you don't know what to change or how to change it?
Right. So my answer would be pause, breathe, and ask, what is it that you are trying to tell me? And I think part of that is it's not a dissatisfaction that I've been failing at what I've been doing. It's just a sign that my soul has outgrown where I'm at, and I'm ready to expand my awareness. And I don't necessarily think that I'm stuck, because I don't really feel stuck. I think that it's just that reminder that there's all these other possibilities. You and I both listened to Abraham Hicks, and Abraham speaks about contrast. And when you experience what you don't want, life can sometimes feel unsatisfying. And I think that by drawing in, you really have to get clear in what you do want. And as you were sharing a little bit before the show started, you don't have to know how. So I'd love to hear what inspired you about this question, Michael, because it's a beautiful one.
This is like rolling a bowling ball right down the middle of an alley for me. It's interesting because, you can get caught up in the quagmire of the question, kind of like don't know how to change it, don't know what to change or how to change it. You just know you got the sense that things are not working for you. And when you were talking there, a couple of things came to my mind. And I know I mentioned before we were talking about this, that being unsatisfied with your life is a perception. You're perceiving that you are unsatisfied, that it's a perception that literally does now create the whole script for being unsatisfied, recognizing those things that you are unsatisfied with, and actually creating the reality of being unsatisfied, okay? And so the first thing I would say if someone came to me with this question is I would say what needs to shift first is your perception of your dissatisfaction, right? Because two things, actually. Your perception about being dissatisfied is creating the feelings of being dissatisfied, the inner conversations that now support being dissatisfied, and then the actions and responses that also now are aligned with being dissatisfied. So all we're focused on here, our focus and attention is on being dissatisfied, right? So the fastest way to move beyond this is to ask yourself a couple of questions. What brings me joy? What brings a smile to my face? What do I have fun with? What do I enjoy in my life? And go back to that, because that's the opposite of being dissatisfied. Go to things that you're satisfied with in your life, because you can't be unsatisfied with everything. There's generally, I find, a focus that is being placed on something that is creating dissatisfaction, something in your life. It's not your whole life. It's just one thing that's been blown up as if it now, the 10% is now the 100%. And it's overshadowing everything else, other things that you are satisfied with, but you're carrying the feelings of dissatisfaction, not being satisfied with your life, into the things that actually would otherwise make you feel great. Put a smile on your face. Enjoy. Right? It's kind of like somebody who has school debt, right? A mountain of school debt that they have to pay every month. And the question, that debt can become something, can generate the energy of dissatisfaction because you have to pay it every month. You have to see it. And it can overshadow now those feelings of, I hate this debt, can now bleed into every other area of your life. How can I be happy in my relationship if I have this huge debt I have to pay every month? How can I like what I do because this is an overriding cloud, it's a dark cloud that's over me? How can I go out and have fun in the evening with friends when I know I have this big debt that I have to pay? I mean, you see what I'm saying. It's like it's not the biggest thing in your life, but it's big enough so that it can overshadow your feelings about it, your feelings of dissatisfaction of having it can bleed over, okay? Now, the other thing that I talked about, that I was thinking about, is that generally the dissatisfaction isn't with you, it's with something in your external world. Because the majority of us really focus on our external world. It's what drives us. Your job drives you, your relationship drives you, your kids, your passions, maybe your hobbies, other things that you have to do, work, chores, everything outside of you, right? And so the focus can sometimes move way outside of you, where you're being overwhelmed by all of the things in your external world that you have to keep up with. And so it can breed dissatisfaction just by virtue of your attention and focus being on it and not on you and your inner world. When you no longer have a connection, or no longer, let's say you lose it, had it, but you've lost it, or you've never had it. There's a lot of people out there who live from their external world every single day. They want to keep up with the Joneses. You want to have the right shoes. You want to have the right clothes. You want to have the right job, the right car. That's the main focus, is everything external, the right social media presence, the right number of followers, doing the right kind of posts. All of that is external, all of it. But the thing you said is breathe, right? Come back to breathing. And when you sit down and take a breath and you say, okay, I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes, and I'm just going to sit here and just breathe deeply for 5 minutes. Breathe deeply. What you're doing then is you're giving yourself an opportunity to connect with you, because that's where this all is going to begin, is reconnecting with you. Because unless you reconnect with your inner world, your outer world will always be potentially dissatisfying, because it's nothing that you control. You don't control what happens at work or with friends or with your family. Everybody's thinking something different. Everybody wants something different. Everybody's moving in a different direction. You have no control over any of that. And our stress and anxiety is caused by focusing on too much of our external world in our attempt to control it. And we think there's satisfaction in doing so. Well, there isn't. Wake up. There's no satisfaction in trying to control your external world. None at all. And so, a couple of things here. The perception is driving how you're feeling, perception of being dissatisfied. And then you're right about the fact that there is no how. We do not focus on the how, because that as well is really beyond our control. We have to connect with our inner world and let our higher self handle the how, our angelic team, whatever. When we can connect within, we can connect with our hearts, which is our heart intelligence, as David Clements calls it, is where all the knowledge is, not in our heads. It's not in our external world. When we connect with our heart and we connect with what we know to be our authentic self, a loving presence, and we breathe deeply and connect with that just for 5 minutes initially, try to work it up to maybe 5 or 10 minutes, a couple of times a day. Somebody told me, look, just sit down and breathe for 5 minutes 3 times a day. You'll feel better. Because when we're running around like, crazy, what happens is we don't breathe. The more we're stressed, the less we breathe, the less we oxygenate our bodies. And so taking the time to go inside and to nurture and pamper ourselves will help us to disconnect from the dissatisfaction that we have with our external world. We can let it go. We can let it go. And that's really what has to happen, is that. So perception change, going inside, forgetting about how, because how is not a question you can answer. You want to be open to what happens. Put yourself in a position where, let's put it this way, you either throwing the ball, you're catching the ball. I'd rather be out there ready to catch the ball. I don't want to have to figure out how to throw it to where it needs to be. That's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to simply catch it. I want to be out here in the field. I've got my glove. I'm ready to go. And so those are the things that I think about with this question in terms of how to move through it. And I hope that was clear enough.
Oh, no. Michael, as you're speaking, it brought so many different beautiful images. I don't know if it was your guide or my guide or whoever brought it in. But you want to know what I thought of visually when you were sharing your thoughts on the question, what do you do when you're really unsatisfied with life but don't know what you want to change or how to change it? It was camping. As funny as that sounds, I have no idea what made me think about camping, but if you've ever gone camping, there's different things depending on where you're going to go or how many days you're going to be out, what you are going to put in your backpack. And you will choose your path. Everybody chooses their own path. As my experience of a camping trip is a lot different than other people. Some people like to go on long, extended trips camp for a month. I'm more of a weekend camper. There's some people who like to camp and have a cabin and have a shower, and they will bring all the creature comforts for home. That's camping to them. And there's no one way to do that. But if you've ever gone camping with a group of friends, everyone usually cooks together, and then afterwards everybody relaxes around the fire, and as the evening progresses, it gets darker and darker, and the fire starts to die down, and some of your friends might find themselves getting sleepy, or some might get cold, but since everybody's cozy in conversation, they might not want to get up and disturb the vibe of the group, so they tough it out. But perhaps if they wait long enough, someone will grab some wood and stoke the fire so it burns bright again. And that changes the whole experience. Right. But it was interesting because I thought to myself, this question is kind of like being a fire starter. As I often have said to there's a lot of people that are alive today that are fire starters. They are creating something within the environment, culturally or collectively, that is part of the impetus for change. I think Pam Gregory's like that, David Clements is like that, Bashar, all of these different individuals, but we all have that ability. And I think sometimes when we're looking outside of us and we're always getting communications in and out, and I believe we're always being guided, and maybe that's why I'm bringing up this part of this conversation. But it's your journey and not to be judged, and allow yourself to be guided. And before you know it, that path will appear. It's exactly where you're meant to be, where you need to be. And we can't really see until we're at the end of our journey to see where things go. But I really appreciate, I don't know why, I felt like I was, as you were speaking, and it was so strange because I'm sitting in Pittsburgh and you're in Florida, but I sort of felt like you brought me in around the campfire. And here I am, and I'm listening to your words, and they were like balm for my soul. So thank you very much. I'm just sitting there going, oh, Michael, thank you.
No problem. It's interesting. I have this way of just wanting to, to me, everything comes back to how we're perceiving ourselves, because life is perceptual. And within the context of our life, we can become dissatisfied with our things happening externally that we are perceiving in one way or the other as positive or negative. And if someone's not satisfied, then the perception of their life, of the external world, they're perceiving the external world in a way that is negative, where they don't see any value in it for them. And sometimes we can kind of, go off the rails a little bit with the way that we like something, and then we discover that we don't really prefer a lot of things about it, and then we don't know how to change it. Or maybe some fear or doubt might creep in because, we start thinking to ourselves, how do I do this? And if I do this, what am I going to do for money? And then if I do that, how much money will it be? Will it be enough to cover whatever? And you're like, wow, it's like this huge box of it's quicksand that you step into mentally. So the thing that came up, which to me when you were talking, was creating the circumstances for clarity. Creating the circumstances for clarity. We must always. I like to every day create circumstances for clarity by sitting down in the morning, not too far after I've awakened, and just sitting quietly. My cat likes to hang out with me and sleep and snore next to me at some point. However, she loves the energy. She loves the energy. I just come and sit down. It's like wherever she is, she comes and sits down next to me. And I appreciate the company. I appreciate the spirit that likes to, hang out with me. However, one of the things that I do this for is so that I can begin my day with clarity. I'm not worried about something happening, concerned with what's going to go wrong today. Something can go wrong, probably will go wrong, because that's the way the external world works. I don't have any control over if it goes wrong or if it goes right. I just know that I want to be at peace within it. So I produce the storm. That's what I wanted to say. I'm going to bring this right because I wanted to use this so badly. I produce the storm of peace. That's what I do. That creates the change in the way that I feel and the way that I approach the day. I love that quote, by the way.
Don't wait for the storm. His name's Topher Pike. He wrote a wonderful book, 101 Quotes That Will Change Your Life. And right on the front cover it says, don't wait for the storm to change your life. Create the storm that will change your life.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, Louise Hay used to say, we cannot clean a house if we can't see the dirt. And I think that's exactly the same thing, that you're feeling that stuck. You need to, move things around. I think it's a great metaphor because as I was doing last night, cleaning a house that I had a tenant, and I moved out the refrigerator. Boy, if I wouldn't have moved that refrigerator, I wouldn't have seen all the dust bunnies and all the dirt and all the other things. But as soon as I pulled it out, I'm like, wow, that needs to be cleaned. And I felt so happy. Yeah. It brought me so much satisfaction to know that that was clean when it was done. And I think
I love doing that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in places where you can't see the dirt, light floors, tile floors. You can't see all the dirt. I know that there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction in knowing that you've actually cleaned an area where you couldn't see dirt, but you knew dirt existed, but now you know it's clean, right? And so, I don't know, I could talk about cleaning all day long. I just enjoy it. And I have to do it because I have a little corgi dog that sheds like 365 days a year. However, this is the thing that's interesting. More moving things around, focusing on your external world. Nothing is broken. It's important because a lot of times what we do is we go to the dark side of our thoughts, right? We choose the negative thoughts. If I'm dissatisfied, something must be wrong, right? Instead of saying, maybe I'm running into a wall of what I do not prefer. The contrast you were talking about earlier, which one of the big elements of alchemy, personal alchemy, is contrast, and exposing yourself to things that contrast with what you're used to. And so contrast is huge here when it comes to dissatisfaction with anything in your life. One of the perceptions that you can adopt is that you're simply coming up against and you're involved in something that you've come to realize you don't prefer. Doesn't mean anything's wrong. Doesn't mean anything's wrong at all. You just come up against a wall of something, from a preference. You'd rather be somewhere else, doing something else. This isn't for me, right? That's not a bad thing. That actually means that, that's actually a very good thing from an energetic perspective, because you really want the opportunity to be in high frequencies all the time. And if you don't know what you do and don't prefer, then you're not going to be able to be in control of that. And being in control of your internal world means that you are on the lookout for the contrasts that exist in life and the preferences that you have for one thing versus another. And I know I prefer to be in an office that has a window, right? Although I know people there's lots of offices in the world, and there's houses even. People might be in the basement without working from their home office in the basement where there's no light. There's no window. I want a window. Not only do I want to look out of the window while I'm working, however, I want the light to come in. I want to know what the weather's like. I'm a sun worshiper. I feel great when the sun is shining on my body. And so me understanding that, it means I create my office around the window. My desk looks out of the window. And from a feng shui perspective, that's a good thing. You don't want it to be in a corner looking away from it. You don't want the window to be at your back. You want to be allowing the energy to, if I understand feng shui, any just in the most minute way, that using the window has energy that comes through it, and you want that energy. You want to be bathed in that energy. I guess that's the way it works. Mm-hmm. I'm not a feng shui specialist. I will definitely tell you that. However, I know what I prefer, and I put plants up on that side of my desk that blossom, orchids that blossom throughout the year, from like they're doing now, and it makes me feel really awesome to sit and work in that environment. It makes me feel good, and so I know I have that preference. And so we all know what our preferences are about various things, and it's a good idea to examine how we feel, how those preferences have us feeling, so that we can adjust them. And maybe, like I said, you can, in the beginning, being dissatisfied might be telling you that you don't prefer to be where you are, doing what you're doing, engaged with your external world in the way that you're engaged with it, or that you're paying too much attention to something in your external world that you don't have any control over, and you're allowing it to impact the way you feel. And that, of course, is abdication of your own sovereignty, because you never want something externally in your world to make you feel one way or another. You want to have control over that. It's not what that person says. It's not what this thing happens, what does go on over there. It's those are just things that are occurring, and it's up to me to determine how they connect with me, to how I feel about them. I'm the one who decides how I perceive them in my life within the context of my existence here, and whether I give them relevance or not. That's it. Yeah. I love doing that. And it gives you a sense of control, and it does make you very satisfied.
Your window is a great metaphor, because I can't even tell you, because we all view the world from different places. We all have a different mindset. And so when you're looking out your window, I don't know whether you see the sunrise or the sunset, but whatever you're seeing out your window, there's beauty in every moment once you allow that experience to unfold and take that particular mindset. And I think that that's really what this question is all about, because there are so many moments in each of our days that are absolutely breathtaking. I have these two little baby deer that are coming with their mother, and they bring me so much joy. And on Sunday, I was supposed to meet a friend, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be early. And I drive down the street, and the two little deer are without their mom, and they were starting to walk into a busy street. And I thought, no, I stopped my car so I could herd them back into the park. And I was late, not terribly late, but I was late. But you know what? That was important to me. I have a kinship to them. They make my heart smile. They came last night, and I had a strong talking to them. I said, okay, you do your snacks, and you need to stay with your mama, and don't be doing wild stuff like that. You're just a little too little. You still got your spots. I mean, they're just tiny little things, but they bring me joy. And I think that when you have questions that come in like that, and I love the idea that it's the power of clarity. What do you choose to see? Each of us can choose our own aperture, and we can choose to smile at life, no matter what the appearances of what things might look like or what the future might bring. But when we open ourselves up to allowing, it helps us bring in more opportunities, possibilities, and experiences into our lives. And our world becomes a broad horizon for exploration. And we all have different size windows. And maybe you don't have a window in your office, but when you are in the car driving home or when you're in your apartment or your home, you have a favorite place to sit. And if you take a look, you realize that the answers exist in the world that surrounds your life. And there's nothing that you need to accomplish or do or whatever you decide to experience, you will be in the right place at the right time. And things will unfold. And I love that metaphor about your window, because actually, I mean, I had a real strong visual of you sitting there, at the end of our show or at the end of your day, and you've worked hard all day, and you just take a moment and you breathe and you look out that window, and there's infinite possibilities. And even if you see the sunset every day, it's not the same one, or you see the sunrise or the bird. I know you get these amazing eagles. Perhaps that's one of the gifts that you see that day. And I think that in that process of recognizing that the clarity is noticing what we notice. When I studied with Dr. Richard Bartlett for many years, and he would say, when you're working with somebody, don't try to change anything. All you are doing is being of service, and notice what you notice. And then once you're done with the session, ask what is interesting or different. And I think that that's really what this question implies. After you ask yourself that question, take a look around. Are you seeing something that you didn't notice before? Is there something that interests you that you want to pursue? What's different? And maybe you'll have a knock on the door, and it'll be a friend you haven't seen in forever, and they just decided to pop in and show up and take you out to dinner and tell you about an opportunity that may lead you in a different direction. We just never, ever know.
Yeah. People, it's wonderful, because what he was doing was letting people discern for themselves. Not place any kind of thought in their mind. Let them discern what's going on within them. And, it's kind of like, I'd say, you can overtalk a situation. We are here to be of service. We're not here to guide someone to a specific destination. We don't know where it is they're supposed to go. So to me, it's a function of letting people figure things out on their own, but maybe giving them a different perspective of the situation that they're in, so that they can work their way through it. And that's, to me, I think that's a great way of being of service. And I just had a friend tell me who he had stage 4 prostate cancer, and he was somebody who I used to who played music, plays wonderfully. He's a wonderful keyboardist, and I used to sing with him every once in a while over at this restaurant bar that my girlfriend and her family used to own. And so I said, I was basically encouraging him to just, remain positive and think positive thoughts. And please don't say, I have this thing or I have that thing, because what you say I to, you become. Your body has a dis-ease. It has it's out of sync, and your mission is to bring it back into sync, bring it back into harmony. And I'm not, the expert about medically how that happens or, anything of that nature. I'm simply saying that what I know is the language that you use right here, right now, matters. It matters. And he thanks me very much. And I gave him some examples of what he could say about a situation. And I said it's important to see yourself as whole, as healed, as fully a full, healthy human being. And that doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to go to a doctor to do that. It's something you do yourself. Words have energy. Words have power. And when you say, I'm not satisfied, that's the energy that you're creating. That's the scenario, frequency-wise, that you're creating in your life. We have to be very, very careful about how we speak about ourselves and our life. And I realize that what we're doing in many cases is we're just feeling our way through life. We are. And we'll learn some information, and we can apply that information should we choose to. And we have free will to not do it if we don't want to. I find most of the times, though, that the people I speak with are using words and dialogue that make it more challenging for them to move through a situation mentally. And we know the mental impacts the physical. So I'm also very leery about when, someone says, oh, you've got this or you've got that, and he connects with me today, and he goes, I got a second opinion. And he says, the doctor I had the second opinion with doesn't necessarily agree with the first doctor. He doesn't think I'm that bad off, and he doesn't think I need chemo either. He thinks I just need to be on the track that I'm on and just keep doing that, and let's monitor and watch and see. Your numbers aren't that bad. And so I said, I bet you feel great. He says, I feel
wonderful.
Awesome. It feels awesome.
Yeah.
I said, Steve, keep the positive tone. See yourself as being healed. Speak about yourself as though, from a gratitude perspective, that you're already there, that you're already whole, that you're already healthy, and forget the C word. Don't say that. Don't say I have this, I have that. And they look at me sometimes and they go, what do you mean? But I do. I said, no, you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
No, you don't. I agree.
I
agree wholeheartedly.
Getting it. Yeah, you don't ever tell yourself you are this or you are that with regard to something that may be out of balance. Your meridians can be so clogged up that it creates dysfunction within your body. And part of moving through that is making sure that we're not making it any worse, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very, very interesting. And I love this conversation. I love what you just said about how do you feel about the doctor that you worked with and how he's speaking from his heart versus head in terms of, I want to know this, that. Can you give me 10 ways you feel different, or you should feel this or you should feel that, which is what a lot of people do. They want you to, they realize that they have a lot of control in terms of, because we're a suggestive species. We are.
Absolutely.
People are suggestive,
absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be very careful about accepting viruses about things that we may or may not have. Your cholesterol's high. I have high cholesterol. Yeah, so you go around saying I have high cholesterol. You tell 18 of your friends, you go on social media and say I have high cholesterol. And what are you really doing? You're literally creating that scenario for yourself. Your body goes, we have what? Okay, we need to heighten the cholesterol. It's like, crank it up. It's like, wow.
Right.
If we knew what our words create, we would, if we saw it actually, we would, which our lives are a function of what we're thinking and saying about ourselves anyway, as I always like to say, we're doing that. But I'm always exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, well, I believe you were an angel who stepped into his life to share that other possibility. When I worked with individuals who are out of balance with cancer, I would always share with them that is just one possibility in the realm of infinite possibilities. And so we would try to anchor into a new circumstance, a new opportunity. And that's really all that needs to change, was really their relationship sometimes with themselves. You know, Michael, I believe that one of the most amazing books that validates what you're speaking about is the book by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And in that book is a very beautiful affirmation, and it's simply, I love and approve of myself. You know, just by embodying that love and approval, we can create an amazing sacred space for healing, because it enables us to recognize that the outer world no longer has the power to dictate what our outcome will be. And I'd love to share just a short story about Glenn Brooks, because Glenn Brooks introduced me to a wonderful gentleman named Larry Clapp, who wrote a book about healing your prostate in 90 days. But Larry healed his in 30 days. And he said most people wouldn't do what he did. And I had an opportunity to speak with Larry. And I, like you, happened to be in the path of a young man, 40 years young, who I used to see all the time at the bookstore. I'm like, how are you doing? And he said, well, actually, I'm not doing very well. And he got a similar diagnosis. And I said to him, well, you know, that is one possibility. And I told him about Larry Clapp's book. He bought the book, and he actually picked up the phone and reached out to Larry. And Larry answered the phone. And he started to do exactly what Larry said, and he's still around today. With his prostate, I might add. You know, but we never, ever know when it is that we have an opportunity to show up. And I think that right now, this question came up for a reason, Michael. I really do. I believe that you posed it to me for a very special reason, and I'd love to be able to anchor this in for our audience and give them some practical tips or exercises so that when dissatisfaction shows up, instead of asking what's wrong with me, maybe perhaps you can say, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Or what part of me is asking for attention? Or perhaps what would bring me great joy and happiness today? Or perhaps even help move me more into inner peace. I think, again, it's sort of that same thing. You notice what comes up for you when you hear these questions. And you don't have to have everything solved. I don't know where we got this idea that you have a challenge and it absolutely has to be solved immediately. Some things, if you have a water that's coming out because a pipe burst, that's a pretty big take care of it right now thing.
Pretty simple,
right? But oftentimes it's something, even with me, I recognize I have to do these steps in order to rent my property out again. And I chose last night, rather than to do painting and to do some cleaning and to do some other things. And I have a gentleman who's helping me clean and somebody else do some other things that are not in my skill set. And it'll get done, and I'm almost to completion. But guess what? This weekend, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I had an opportunity to see a friend of mine. And so I went out for lunch. And that was a choice, and that brought me so much joy and so much peace. And I didn't have to feel bad that I wasn't working on this particular house.
Of course not.
Getting it back
you can't,
up.
No, you have to. Why would you? I mean, it's like we do this to ourselves. We create this laundry list of things we need to do, and then we feel guilty when we don't do one, or if we quit early, or if we decide we don't want to do it today. I can tell you my laundry list is about 5 things long, and I'll get to them when I'm excited about doing them. And that's pretty much it. But there will be that time. I'll wake up in the morning and I'm going to go, I'm excited about doing this thing. I'm going to go do this thing right now. And I have fun with it. I go to the store. I get the little things I need. I come home. It's sort of a creative, inspirational kind of thing. How can I fix that little fence to do this thing? I've been thinking about the left fence for, 6 months. Went and got a special bolt that I think will work. And then I'm like, okay, I'll do that when I have the interest in doing it, when I'm excited about doing it, because I follow the excitement and passion program that that Bashar, talks about. But because I love it, does that excite me today? No, I'll go do something that excites me. It's not that it's going to fall down or whatever. At some particular point, I will fix it. I know exactly what to do to fix it. It's just not. It's not exciting me today to go fix it. What excites me is going to play golf this morning, with some friends who invited me to come meet some new friends. And so I'm not shirking my duties in any way. I arrange my work around whatever it is, and maybe I don't need to work today. That's just my life. I have that ability to choose, and I encourage people, whoever I meet, to put themselves in a position where they have the ability to make choices of that nature. However, that's not, I don't have any control over that. I'm just going, it's taken me a while to get to this particular point in life. However, I've always had this vision in my mind, which is I sit down at my desk. When I sit down at my desk, I have a list of things that I'd like to accomplish at some particular point, and I feel that they're already done, and all I have to do is go through the motions. And it's always an ever-evolving situation. Most of the people, I'm assuming, that listen to us are still engaged in some sort of livelihood, some sort of doing something for a living, maybe in an office, or maybe they're entrepreneurs, or whatever it may be. They got side hustles, 2 or 3 different side hustles, wherever you are in the world. However, it's to me, it's incredibly important to love what you're doing, or to fall in love with what you're doing, really. And and the dissatisfaction that you feel, if you say I'm not satisfied with my entire life, that's like saying I'm dissatisfied with the macro picture of my life, right? And if you ask somebody, what do you mean by that? Which would be the first question, by the way, I would ask. We didn't talk about that earlier. I just talked about perceptions and other things of ways to move past it. But really the first question needs to be, why do you feel dissatisfied with your life? Why? And if you want to be more specific, give me the laundry list of what you're dissatisfied with. And in many cases, when I've asked something similar, someone says, I don't like things. I don't like my life. You don't like your life. That's a big thing going on here, right? There's so many little nuances. It's like saying, I hate that pyramid. It's got 2 million stones that make up the pyramid. I don't like that pyramid. What don't you like? Which stone, which row don't you like, right? It's like it's almost as if we get to the point where the straw has broken the camel's back, so to speak, where one thing has occurred that has created this whole cascade of things now that you feel you don't like. You were okay. You were holding things together yesterday, but today this one thing happened, and now my whole life's broken. And your whole life really isn't broken. It's just you've focused on this one thing today, and you've let the other things that you've not preferred but kept doing build up. And how can we be happy and excited and passionate if we're continuing to do all the things that we don't prefer? We've given ourselves no choice, and we actually have all the free will that we want. Yeah, there's fear, there's doubt, there's worry about what will happen if I change something. However, in my view, that's the growth. That's where the growth occurs, when you say, I trust myself. I have faith in myself. I know that this thing I don't prefer, and it's like, I don't want to say I don't like it. That's a judgment. It might be a discerning judgment. However, if I say I don't really prefer this, it's more about feelings to me. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's more about feelings. My heart is not into this. This doesn't excite me. This doesn't bring me joy. I'm not passionate about doing this thing all day long. There may be a couple of things I enjoy. However, I don't feel good every day when I go home. Now, either I examine why that's the case for myself. I look at the perceptions I have about it. Maybe I'm allowing something externally within the context of my work get in the way. Maybe my focus is in the wrong place. Oh, no, I like doing this little thing I do. However, when this person comes in, or I have to talk to that person, or I have to do this thing, or this rule here I've got to follow that gets in the way of whatever it is, then I'm not so happy with it. Well, those are all external things that you can mitigate in your own mind by focusing on what you actually love and just saying, I can't change those things. I'm going to just let them be. I'm not going to try and put energy and attention and focus into trying to change something that's beyond my ability to change. And I'm just letting them go. I'm going to focus on what I love. And maybe that shifts everything the next day when you go into work, whatever you do. You know, go into your office or go into the store you work at or wherever it may be. It's like we get caught up in this little thing, and we now paint our entire life as a portrait of dissatisfaction because this one little thing that is going on is not to our liking. And we let it fester and fester and fester until it becomes the whole thing. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what we have a tendency to do, but it's not really that. It's you know, life on the whole is awesome. It's just we tend to focus on the little things that we don't prefer, and instead of coming to grips with the fact that we can't change whatever that is and letting it go and focusing refocusing on what we do love, what we are excited about and passionate about, you know, that's when someone's blowing up with me on the phone, friend or otherwise, I have to bring them back to earth because that's generally what has happened. But what about that? Isn't that in your external world? Well, yeah, it is, but the he said, she said, blah, blah. Can you change any of that? No. Well, why are you dedicating all this energy to it? You know, you're not responsible for, nor can you control what somebody else says or does. No, not within your wheelhouse. But you can deal with and control how you respond to it, how you process it yourself, how it makes you feel. That you have complete control over. And whether you prefer to be engaged with that person or not, again, in the future, that you can control. Stick with what you can control, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be a very happy person for a longer period of time, right? And as I always tell my good friends, it's heartfelt. And my friend, by the way, who had the diagnosis of prostate cancer, came back to me. He said, thank you so much. And I hadn't talked to him, by the way. You're right about one thing. I hadn't talked to him in probably 12 years.
Wow.
Maybe 15. I haven't talked to him. Literally have not talked to him. And I Facebook confirmed, you know, and he sent me this message about what he on Messenger about what was going on with him. And he said, yeah, your words are really heartfelt to me. And I said, yeah, okay, because I said that's the only way to converse with somebody. I said they are. Mm-hmm. They're from my heart. I really wish for you the absolute best. And I know he'll be fine. And he just has to go through the process of whatever it takes to rebalance his body, and that's it. So
yeah,
wonderful.
And I'm sure after he got done with hearing your words, you know, he did take a deep breath and looked around and was ready, whether he sat down with a cup of tea, I'm sure he had lots of different thoughts. It was enough to ignite the passion in him to seek out a second opinion and perhaps a third. And I read Elle Macpherson's book. I think she got close to 30 different opinions because it wasn't resonating within her heart. And I think that's, when you said that, you feel it. You do feel that sense of clarity, that sense of peace, that sense of joy, whatever it is in you. And I sort of sometimes think that the dissatisfaction or the drama or whatever is almost like a program thing, because we see it on television or we see it on social media or whatever else it is. Mm-hmm. But we have that ability to choose, and we can choose again and again and again. We don't make a choice and it has to be final. We can choose love, we can choose kindness, we can choose gratitude, we can choose presence, we can choose peace and joy and happy, 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 as the teachers always say. It is that choice. And, really have so grateful for you bringing this information in, Michael, because I know that it was something that obviously I needed to be reminded of. It is a grounded and necessary question, I think, that we can all tune into and recognize that wherever we seek inspiration, we can find clarity and direction, and it doesn't have to be about that dissatisfaction. I really love that you brought up clarity, because it is a journey. This life is a journey, and we spend that when we're young. We just want to get old, and then you start to get older, and you recognize that your time on this planet is so precious. It's not about rushing to the finish line. It's about learning to see yourself from within and standing in your truth, your sovereignty, and allowing whatever brings you joy, if it's that cup of tea or the conversation or whatever it is that brings you peace. Whatever resonates in your heart, do more of that. Do more of that. And you can't go wrong. Yeah,
it's true. What I'm thinking about was you're talking. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you appreciate the question. It is it's a wonderful topic, and one that has many tributaries. If it were a river, it'd have many, many tributaries, because there are so many different ways to approach it. Yet I know that, I'll say it again, if we have become dissatisfied, the first place to look is at how we are engaging with our external world. And to me, it's a telltale sign that we need to go into our inner world and work with our inner world, because our inner world is non-judgmental. It's love, it's joy, it's happiness, it's satisfaction, it's fulfillment. That's our inner world. It's love. It's our heart. It's our energy, our own energy field. We have this tremendous ability to connect with ourselves and to connect with our higher self, our oversoul, or however you want to refer to it. We're not all here. We're just a piece of here, and there's lots of information we've got a whole team of, whether you believe it or not, a whole team of non-physical beings that are ready to assist us. However, if we're continually focused on our external world, the noise that's going on, where LeBron James is going. Somebody asked me yesterday, I'm going, where? I don't know. LeBron James, he's going to Philly. Do you think he's going to be okay in Philly? I said, I don't know. I don't watch that stuff. I don't care. I said, is he happy? Is he a happy guy? Is he in love and passion? He seems to me he's pretty excited and passionate about what he does. Great. That's all I need to know. I don't care where he goes. I don't have a bias one way or the other about whether he left L.A. or whether he should go to Arizona or Philly. I don't care. It's like we have this fascination in this world. In our lives, we have the fascination with the external. Go inside. When you go inside, all that falls away. That's all I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I so appreciate this conversation. I think it's really an invitation for all of us to choose the path that allows us to become more of who we are, and always reconnect with our hearts and choose love, one thought, one moment, and one connection at a time. Choose peace, and always choose love. And thank you so much, Michael. It's been absolutely delightful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you. Now, enjoy.
yeah, until next time. Peace out. Thank you.